All right, today we will be talking about Python dictionaries. So a dictionary is a data structure in Python that stores what are known as key value pairs. So if you're coming from another language, you might already know about this data structure, and it would be known as like a hash map or a map. So a key value pair is just two pieces of data that are linked, where the key you can think of as a key to like a door, and this key will unlock what's on the other side of that door, right? So I'll explain that a bit later, but for now, let's start by initializing a dictionary. And so there are two ways you can do this in Python. The first one, we'll just create a variable. I'll say my dict equals a pair of curly braces, right? So this is the first way to initialize a dictionary. Another way is to use Python's built-in function, dict. And now let me print this dictionary I just created. You can see we have an empty dictionary. So what is a key value pair? So like I mentioned, you can think of a key as like a key to unlock a door, and behind that door there's a value, which is data that you can access using that key. So let me show you an example. Let's think about maybe user IDs and users, right? So in a system, we might have a user ID that's unique, and a user will have like a name, right? So in this dictionary I just created, I will create a new key, right, with square brackets, and this will be the user ID. So let's make it like ABC123, and the name of this person will be Billy Bob Joe, right? So I have created a new key that unlocks this value. To access this value, I need to know this key, right? So now these two strings are interlinked in this dictionary. So let me print this dictionary just to illustrate this. You can see now our dictionary, we have a key ABC123, and its associated value is Billy Bob Joe, right? So let me add another item to this dictionary. My dict at, I'll say XYZ456 equals Sarah Smith, a nice default name. So now we have two keys in this dictionary, and each key is associated with its own value, right? And so to access a value using a key, I can do this. Instead of printing the entire dictionary, I'll say my dict at a specific key. So if I print my dictionary with the key ABC123, you can already probably guess we'll get Billy Bob Joe. So we can see how these are key value pairs. This key is needed to unlock this value. And if I change the key to something like XYZ456, now we get Sarah Smith, right? And now you might be thinking, wow, what happens if we use a key that doesn't exist in this dictionary, right? Let's try that. I'll put some gibberish in here, right? And we get an error. We can see there's a key error. This key does not exist in the dictionary that we're referencing, right? Cool. So one very important thing about keys is that they must be unique. A dictionary does not contain duplicate keys, right? There is only one key that is used to unlock each door. There can only be one, right? So what if I do something like my dict at ABC123 equals Johnny Appleseed, right? You can see I just used the same key and created a new value, right? Now let me print this dictionary. Now you can see that this key now is linked to the value Johnny Appleseed instead of Billy Bob Joe. So what we did right here actually is an update. We updated this key ABC123 to the value Johnny Appleseed. ABC123 no longer unlocks a door that leads to Billy Bob Joe. Now it unlocks a door that leads to Johnny Appleseed. So I just showed you how to create a dictionary, set key value pairs in a dictionary, and then explain the uniqueness of the keys, right? Another cool thing about Python dictionaries is that they can contain multiple data types within the same dictionary. So I could do my dict at 123, an integer equals another integer. So let's do 3 equals 456, right? Now if I print this dictionary, you can see we have the old key value pairs and we also have a new key value pair, 2 integers. You can mix and match them too. So I can say my dictionary at, let's say the key 456 equals hello world, right? Let me run this. And now you can see that full dictionary we created. And then I can access these keys. We get 456, right? So dictionaries are very flexible in this way. So now you might be thinking, what's the purpose of a dictionary? Why are these necessary? The short answer is it allows for quick access of data, right? And so what that means is, let's say I have a user ID, right? Let me just create another key here. So let me see, like DEF 789, right? And this will be Johnny Appleseed. So let me print out this dictionary just to illustrate this. We have our user IDs and then their names, right? So let's say I had the user ID DEF789, right? I want to know what's the name associated with this user ID, right? Let's first see how we would do this in like a list format. If we were to store these user IDs and usernames in a list, right? So I'll say my list, we'll create like a 2D list here, a list of lists. We'll have ABC123 and then Billy Bob Joe, right? Let me speed this up a little bit. All right, so now we have a list of items, and each item contains a user ID and the associated name. So let's write some code to figure out how to find the name associated with our target user ID. So I'll just say target is DEF789, right? I'm trying to find the name associated with this target. Here's what I would have to do, right? I would say, I'll say for user in my list, right? If the user at index 0, which is the user ID, is the same as my target, I will print user at 1, the index 1, which is the name, right? So let's run this. So cool, we find Johnny Appleseed, right? The target is DEF789 and the name is Johnny Appleseed. But if we think about what this code actually does, is it iterates through every single item in this list and checks whether the user ID is the one that we're looking for, right? So I look, ABC123, is that our target? No. XYZ456, is that our target? No. DEF789, that is our target. So then we'll print this, right? You can see if we were to extrapolate this to a much bigger list, right, that this would be very inefficient, right? We're looking through every single item in the list to try to find the target that we're looking for. Now, let's remove this code and then see how we would do this with a dictionary. This would be very simple. So I can just straight up print my dict with the key target, the one that we just defined, right? Let me run this again. Boom. We get the same answer. But what this actually does behind the scenes is that it can use this key to map to Johnny Appleseed directly. So we don't need to look at Billy Bob Joe. We don't need to look at Sarah Smith. I can use this key to unlock the exact door that I need to find Johnny Appleseed. So if you are familiar with big O notation, this is done in O of 1, whereas searching through a list is worst case O of n. So that is the main purpose of a dictionary, is quick access using keys. So a few more things about keys. They have to be immutable, right? So an immutable data structure or data type in Python can be something like an integer or a string, but it can't be something like a list because that is mutable, right? So if I were to try to do, let's say, try to make a new key, say like new key equals, I'll create this list, A and B, right? If I try to do my dict with this new key, right, I'm gonna run into an error because we get this type error, unhashable type list, right? Because a list is actually mutable, right? And this makes sense because keys in dictionaries have to be unique and they are specific keys that access doors, right? If I use a list as a key and then add something to that list later, that key changes, right? So we can't use that with Python dictionaries. One more thing with keys, we can actually remove keys. So I could do something like delete my dict at def 789. And then now let me print the dictionary. Now we can see that def 789, the key value pair with Johnny Appleseed has disappeared entirely. We've removed it. To get all the keys of a dictionary, you can do something like this. My dict dot keys, right? This is like a built-in function. Let's see this, and you can see the keys. ABC123 and XYZ456. And we can do the same with the values. To print all the values of a dictionary, we can do mydict.values. And we see all the values are Billy Bob Joe and Sarah Smith. So that should wrap up our introduction to Python dictionaries. I hope that was really helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.